Hi everybody, I'm Nick Ravelis, the Geisel Director of Education and Outreach for San Diego Opera. You can call me Dr. Nick. You're going to be coming to see the opera Samson and Delilah, an opera based on one of the most famous stories in the Bible. The Hebrew Samson is a great hero in the Bible, just like his Greek ancestors Achilles, Hercules, Jason, and Odysseus. Like all of the ancient heroes, Samson had various legends built around his character. In one story, he goes to battle with a lion and kills it with his bare hands. In another, he goes to battle with the Philistines, a pagan people who hated the Hebrews, and he wins the battle with his only weapon, not a sword or a club or a spear, but with the jawbone of a donkey. He's also said to have snuck into a city just as a practical joke by uprooting the big stone city gates with his strong arms. Now that's a hero. Just like Hercules, a whole literature of feats of miraculous strength grew up around him. But like most heroes, Samson had a flaw. Do you know what it was? He had a keen eye for the ladies. In the biblical story of Samson and Delilah, the lady who catches his eye is Delilah. The problem is this: she's a member of that much-hated Philistine race, and she's decided, along with the Philistines' high priest, that she will bring Samson down in order to finally be victorious over his people, the Hebrews. Knowing that he might find her beautiful, she decides that she will seduce him and try to find out the source of his power. This will make him as weak as a kitten. The Philistines will be able to capture and imprison him, and they will finally be able to overpower the Hebrews. Now here's one of the stranger parts of the story. His power is found in his long, luxurious hair. Yeah, his hair. So in the climax of the story, Samson dozes off in Delilah's tent, she gets some scissors, cuts off his hair, then calls out for the Philistine soldiers to come in and capture him. In the end, Samson is triumphant. The Philistines chain him between two pillars of their temple. He prays to God, and then summoning up all his strength, he brings the pillars down, and the entire building collapses, killing everybody. Him too, by the way, but he sacrifices himself for his people so that he lives eternally in Jewish memory, legend, and ritual. I think by just hearing the bare outline of the story that it has a lot of theatrical potential. The French composer Camille Saint-Saëns certainly thought so. But it took him 12 years to write this opera. Why so long? Well, he originally thought of setting this story as a concert work for orchestra, vocal soloists, and chorus, what we call an oratorio. An oratorio is a musical work based on a sacred or biblical story and was always performed in a concert hall. What's the difference between an oratorio and an opera? Well, an opera is fully staged with costumes, sets, lots of movement as the singers act out the drama that's been created for them. And yes, some operas, like Samson and Delilah, are based on biblical or sacred stories. But someone finally convinced Saint-Saëns to make this into an opera, and that the ending, especially the falling of the temple on the Philistines, would be a terrific special effect in the theater. As an opera, not an oratorio, Samson and Delilah became one of the great examples of French grand opera. Even though it was written over a century ago, it's very popular because of its music and the different ways that opera companies come up with staging it, usually in a really spectacular way. I know you're going to enjoy this wonderful French opera. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever heard this piece of music before? Listen. That's the famous habanera. It's not from Samson and Delilah, but from another French opera, Carmen, by Georges Bizet. In this aria, the character Carmen sees the man she wants at the moment and begins to dance, coming closer and closer to him, trying to get his attention. Her purpose is to get the man to notice her so that she can seduce him. The melody of the aria is perfect for describing that. Notice that it begins on a high pitch and then slowly works its way down to a lower pitch, sort of winding around in a seductive way. Let me play it for you one more time. This is what we'd call pure picture music. The music itself draws a picture of what's actually happening at that moment in the drama or in the story of the opera. The composer of Samson and Delilah, also a Frenchman, Camille Saint-Saëns, seems to have taken a lesson from Vidz, because something very similar happens in Act 2 of Samson and Delilah. Delilah decides that she needs to seduce Samson so that she can discover the source of his strength. She, like Carmen, sings an aria directed at Samson, and the direction of the melody is very much like that of the famous habanera. Did you notice that the melody has the same downward direction and that it seems to circle around itself as if Delilah is actually putting her arms around Samson and caressing him? Again, we have picture music, music that describes perfectly what's going on in the drama, in the opera, at that very moment. There are many moments like this in Samson and Delilah. The very first music we hear in the opera is the orchestra playing an introduction to the chorus of Hebrews who are praying to God. They're desperate, looking for some kind of freedom from the Philistines who have dominated them and are making their lives miserable. The music we hear from the orchestra is solemn, prayerful, and full of longing, again, perfectly matching the atmosphere of the scene and the feelings of the characters on stage, the ancient Hebrews. Another moment like this takes place in Act 3, as the Philistines celebrate their victory over Samson. They're all dancing in the temple of Dagon, their pagan god, partying, really, and the dance begins to get a little out of hand. In the midst of it all, you hear this melody, a melody that perfectly captures the exotic atmosphere of the moment. You can almost see the beautiful dancers swaying back and forth before they begin to dance to this slithery tune. This is one of the wonderful things that opera can do. Through music, you can describe just about anything that you can think of that would take place in the telling of a story. It can describe joy, anger, disappointment, love, hate. It can describe any of the emotions that a human being can feel. and do it most of the time even better than words. Samson and Delilah is big in every way. Big sets, big costumes, big orchestra, singers with big voices. Because it's based on a story from the Bible, it has to have that bigness in order to match what we have in our imaginations about the story. A story filled with color and excitement. I know you're going to love this opera as much as I do. I'm Nick Ravellis, and I'll see you at the opera.